Hey, I'm back. So, not too far away from Maryland. I almost did that again. I think I've got maybe 3 miles left, and then I will officially be out of Delaware. Woo! Anyway, so I kind of felt like doing a video to tell everybody about myself. I don't know. It's one of those weird things, man. Like, so I remember when I was a kid in middle school, a teacher asked a question one day, and we talked about this for 2 or 3 days. Anyway, the question he asked was, "Who are you?" And nobody knew, you know. It was some trick question, I guess. I honestly couldn't remember what the answer was at the end. But I remember watching everybody go around class. Teacher would say, "Who are you?" And people would answer with like, "I'm Franklin Nally." And he'd be like, "No, I didn't ask what your name was. I asked, who are you?" And they'd go on to be like, "I'm a son, a brother, you know." Again, those are things, that's what you are. That's not who you are. And then, sure, I gave my answer, and it was also wrong at the time. But that's a question that's kind of haunted me my whole life, because I forgot what the answer to it was. Who are you? So, I remember, fast forward, and I'll get there into this story, but I was doing drug treatment for an addiction problem that I had. And the drug counselor did the same thing. Went around the class and asked everybody, "Who are you?" And by this point in my life, I had done sat in prison for a while. Had a whole lot of time to ponder that question. So I sat there kind of smug and waited for him to come around to everybody. And again, I was kind of helping out in class. People would say things like, "I'm a father," and "I'm a rapper," and "I'm a drug addict." And again, he would be like, "No, I didn't ask what you are. I asked who you are." So then he came around to me. And I'd been preparing this answer for quite a while. So I don't think you can answer that question, "Who are you?" I don't think anybody as a person, because no matter how many different ways you try to answer "Who are you?" you can't describe who you are without saying what you are, where you've been. You know, like, I feel like it's one of those things that only other people can describe who you are. And if you think about it, it's something like your funeral. What are all the people who come to your funeral going to get up on that podium and say about you at the end of your days? What did you do with your life? You know, like, how many people did you touch? You know, so I believe it's what you do with the gift of life that determines who you are. It's the legacy that you leave behind. So I've been through a lot of crap that I'm about to go through here in a bit. And I realized that really the only way to make anything good out of all that negative, bad energy is to just write a pretty good legacy. Like a story, you know. I've got a story. I've come from nothing, like most people do, you know, and I'm still nothing. But I'm a little bit further up than I used to be, which is, you know, fantastic. But anyway, I was born in New York, moved to Florida as an infant, and then Mom and Dad decided on Kentucky, so we moved to Hillview, Kentucky when I was 3, moved to Shepherdsville when I was 5, and I lived in Shepherdsville pretty much my whole life. It's a little small town in Bullitt County, Kentucky. I dropped out of high school twice. Still managed to get a high school diploma, not a GED, but I went back to high school for a third time and finished that last credit. With 1 credit left to graduate, I dropped out. So anyway, I got it. Joined the military, went with the Army. That's a whole different slew of weird, stupid stuff, because my ASVAB scores were high enough that I qualified for any job I wanted in the military. And originally I was going to be a helicopter mechanic, which seemed pretty cool, but at the last second I switched and chose infantry. I started watching Army Ranger videos on YouTube, and it was like, I want to be high-speed badass. And it did. I went to basic training. Man, I excelled in the military. I started at the bottom of a class of 255. And at the end of 3 months, I was the top 3. Like as far as PT scores, ASVAB age. Special Forces recruiters came through and picked the top 5 of the class. Only 3 of our top 5 made the cut, and I was one of the 3. So I switched from a Airborne Ranger contract to a Special Forces recruit contract, which required me to do Airborne, which I was already in for. Anyway, I get to Airborne, everything's coasting along, and I wrecked my knee, tore my meniscus. Army said I'd never carry a combat load again, which is, whatever. I know this isn't a combat load. This is probably 80 pounds less gear than what I would be carrying in the military, but they DQ'd me from the infantry, and my options were to get out or to go needs of the Army, and they put me wherever they wanted. Responsible adult probably should have went needs of the Army, but rebellious youth in me was like, no, if I can't be infantry, I don't want it. So I left the military. Was out on TRICARE for 6 months. Nobody was really worried about fixing my knee. They were just giving me pain meds. And at that point, I wasn't really worried about them fixing my knee because they were giving me pain meds. My 6 months of TRICARE ran out, and I stopped getting my pain pills and realized then that I had a pretty bad addiction. One thing led to another. That's kind of a long story in itself, but over the course of the next 5 years, I transitioned from opiates were my thing. I didn't mess with the crack and the meth and all that stuff. I went from pain pills, but I did get into heroin. And it transitioned from, taking pain pills to get me through to shooting up heroin. That's a fucked up part of my life. I never thought I would have been one of those people, but that shit takes a hold of you really, really fast. And you don't realize it. But your whole life becomes, what can you do to make money to get drugs so you're not sick for the day? And then you got to do that again tomorrow, and then the next day, and every single day you're constantly worried about if you're going to have the money to buy your drugs so you're not sick. But I lucked out and I got arrested. Doesn't sound lucky, but I guess that was the breakthrough for my change in life. Now this is, I forgot to mention the death of my father. That was before I was 19. So that kind of fucked me up, but I'll get to him in a minute. Yeah, so I got pulled over with heroin on me. I had 2 bags of heroin, so they charged me with trafficking. Sent me to jail. Let me out on probation, and I immediately screwed that up. I made it through all of their stuff for a year. Was out 4 days. Got pulled over in Jefferson County with more heroin and caught another trafficking heroin charge. I wasn't selling heroin, but the funny thing about cops, police officers, is they charge you with the maximum amount of everything that they can, and then let the judge and the courts figure it out and work it down from there. After everything was said and done for, I took a 3-year sentence on escape 1 or escape 2, tampering with physical evidence, so I tried to hide the drugs, and possession of a controlled substance, heroin. I did 11 months, which is nothing compared to what a lot of people who go to prison do. I made parole, but yeah, that 11 months was the ticket. I had a lot of time to sit and think, realize about all the damage I was doing to my life and all the people around me. So I got out on parole, had to do the SAP program, substance abuse program, while I was out on the street. I got lucky and was able to do that. And I've been clean and sober ever since. Let's see, 6 years going on 7. And I'll tell you, I'm glad. I was done with that life before I ever even got into that life. You know, like, it was just, I wasn't ever doing the drugs to get high. I was doing the drugs so I could not be sick, so I could get up off the couch and go to work and not be pukey and diarrhea-y and all that horrible shit that comes with the withdrawal symptoms. And that thought alone, remembering how absolutely terrible that was, is what keeps me from going back to using. I'll never ever do any of that stuff again in my life. Had a few quarrels and qualms with NA, but the best rule I found in NA, somebody said, was to take what you can leave, or take what you can use and leave the rest. So a lot of that stuff in NA wasn't for me, like accepting that I was powerless over my addiction, and I don't believe it's a disease, although I know that'll probably get me crucified. I don't know. It's just, I've got my own little set of beliefs on all that. I don't, hate on addicts or nothing, because I used to be one. But I'm also not one of those people that puts off my poor choices in life onto diseases and the circumstances to which I grew up and all that bullshit. Like, it is what it is, like, I was salty and upset about it in the beginning, but now at this point in my life, that's something I made it through. That's something I survived. It made me a lot stronger, a lot wiser, a lot more experienced in the ways of the world. So I'm glad I went through it, but it did cause me a lot of grief. I wouldn't recommend it, 10 out of 10, do not recommend. So then I get out, do a SAP program. One of the things was changing your surroundings, changing your group of friends. So when I got out of prison, that's another good thing about going to prison. It shows you who's there for you and who's not. And none of my little druggy buddies and friends, people that I'd gone out of my way for, came to visit, put money on my books. Like, I was just dead to them. So I got out of prison. I never went back. 90% of them I don't even talk to on Facebook anymore. I've deleted everybody. I joined a gym, and that is where my entire life changed. Derby City Mixed Martial Arts. It's a MMA gym from Dixie Highway there in Louisville, Kentucky. I started doing jiu-jitsu. Met this guy named Chewy. He's kind of became a awesome friend, amazing role model in my life. He's an incredible person. He's got his own YouTube channel as well. Check that out, Jiu-Jitsu. I know most of you already know who that is, but in case anybody who's not my friend sees this YouTube video, Jiu-Jitsu changes lives. But anyway, so I started training. Just because, again, it was one of those dream things I'd always wanted to do. Like, I wanted to be an MMA fighter and get in the cage. Never did make it, although I'm not out of time. I could still hop in the cage at any point. I don't know if I want to. I'm real back and forth with that. I like just training jiu-jitsu and doing the competitions and stuff. Trained a few years. Made real good friends with the owners of the gym. For the first probably couple of years, I was in there like 5 days a week, training 2 or 3 times a day, doing CrossFit. I became a monster, man. It made me feel like I was in the military again, you know, when I could run 2 miles in 12 minutes and do push-ups and sit-ups until the cows came home. But jiu-jitsu is just, man, it's amazing. It changed everything. It gave me a whole new group of friends that weren't doing drugs. Just people out there like chasing dreams and going after the things they wanted in life, you know. Positive, awesome people. And so, you know, I kept training. Maybe they saw a little potential in me or something and decided to send me to Worlds. Right before I went to Worlds, I caught the cancer. And it wasn't nothing big. Just a little skin cancer that had gotten slightly out of control by the time I caught it. But a little surgery and I was white as rain. I didn't even have to do any of the chemicals or chemo or any of that stuff. So recovered from that. Trained my ass off for a couple of months and then went to California and competed at IBJJF Blue Belt Masters Worlds. Got 3rd place, which isn't really incredible, but I don't know. I feel like a little redneck kid from backcountry of Bullitt County getting 3rd at a world competition is kind of awesome, you know. It made me feel good about myself, but got a cool little nickname out of it, the Reaper. I got 3rd because I got disqualified for reaping. So you twist somebody's knee the wrong way. Didn't even twist the knee, I just put my foot in the wrong place, and that was the end of that. But that is what that is, and I'm still happy with the results. I still made the podium. I haven't been training a whole lot lately, just because I have been working a whole lot and been in the middle of trying to like form my own little business. So I finally did that. Started a handyman service, Fix It Frank. Did a few jobs for a few friends and stuff, and friends of friends, and I saved up a bunch of money. And then, not a bunch of money, but enough money to buy my camping equipment and bring a little bit with me. And I headed out to chase another dream. So, I don't know, man, I think that's when my life changed. Was I've heard this expression before, but I stopped chasing dope and I started chasing dreams. And you know, here I am. So I'm probably a mile from Maryland now, 2 miles, and I'm about to conquer Delaware. Let's see how many more of these states I can add to my path back there before this thing's over and done with. I'm feeling great today though, so I think I've gone almost 9 miles, haven't even stopped. Like, didn't stop to rest my back, take my pack off, nothing, just pure 9 miles. My legs are feeling good, my blisters are feeling fine. My back's a little bit tight, but my bag's overly heavy. Well, yeah, so there's my story thus far, and I appreciate you guys listening. I will keep you updated. Goodbye.